Hello and welcome to Alchemy 101, the show that explores all avenues of transformation and aims to offer some useful nuggets that can support us in living in line with nature in a way that's true to our nature, no matter how contrary that might seem. Just like this nightingale, the bird that sings out in the dark. I'm JJ, the Practical Alchemist, delighted as ever that you've joined me today. And later I'll be talking about why borage is a great herb to grow in your garden. And we'll hear from Anabel Oelmann, founder of the Healing Company, and what she's doing to support well-being for all. But first, I don't know about you, but it's been a challenging week energetically for a lot of people I've been speaking with, and me too. There's a lot going on with powerful solar flares and geomagnetic storm warnings, all of which affect us, not just our electrical devices and computers, but ourselves too, as energetic beings. It's a good time to remember to be kind to ourselves and to allow ourselves to rest if we feel we need it, without feeling guilty. We've also just seen a new moon in Cancer, which astrologers see as a time for us to acknowledge and let go of patterns that stop us from forgiving and moving on, as well as anything that limits our ability to connect. Well, forgiving, I always say, it's an interesting one, but holding secrets and resentments are really toxic to us. So, yeah, just let go of those. And then, talking of connection, I just got back from the most wonderful swim that deepened my own connection to nature. As some of you will know, I swim off the coast of Scotland virtually every day, and this evening was just perfect, although not as warm as it has been this summer. I wonder where summer's gone, frankly. The water was beautiful and fresh, and the seals were bobbing around the rocks they love to haul out onto, waiting for the tide to go out so that they can get out of the water for a rest. And then there were the sand martins, beautiful little birds, brown and cream members of the swallow family. I've seen them flying in and out of their burrows on a low cliff just off from where we swim, but this evening they were out in force, almost skimming the water and flying just inches away from our heads. It was as if we weren't any threat to them as we were swimming, no different to the seals a couple of 100 yards away. And it was so beautiful feeling part of nature, soaking up that connection as these gregarious little birds flew right up close to us. Sand martins love to nest in communities, which I guess helps when the local sparrowhawks are eyeing up their prey. There's safety in numbers. And like the swallows we see each summer, the sand martins will be flying south for the winter soon enough. I've written a blog post about them so you can see where they nest and find out a little bit more. Just go to thepracticalalchemist.uk and you should see the blog post on that homepage. Now, connection to the world around us is hugely important for our well-being, and connection is a driving force behind my guest this week. Anabel Oelmann is the co-founder and director of The Healing Company, a platform set up to bring together the most promising companies in what's now a fast-growing nutraceuticals space and to accelerate a change in the health industry. Anabel is a certified nutritionist who's worked as a health coach and a model for the past 5 years. Now, during her career as a health coach, she's developed a passion for making alternative medicine even more accessible, and she founded an adaptogenic herb brand before starting the Healing Company. I caught up with her recently to find out more. Anabel, I love that you are doing such a lot in the field of natural medicine. Now, I know, though, that like many people in this area, in the natural medicine arena, you started off by dealing with your own problems, your own health issues. So I'd love for us to start off by hearing your story, how you got to where you are today.
Sure. I would love to share that. So, I was basically modeling for 8 years. I started pretty young. I started when I was 13 because my mom did it to finance her studies. And so I was always like, oh, I really want to do that. I want to get into it. And so I actually signed up to an agency myself. She said, if you want to do it, sign up for yourself and see where it goes. And so I emailed an agency back then in Berlin. I got accepted, which was really great. I did it next to school and I thought it was really cool to get like some additional pocket money in. So I thought that was really great. And so I did it all the way until I finished my high school. And then I decided, okay, done with school. What do I do now? And everyone was like already, oh, I'm going to study this. I'm going to go here and I'm going to like go there. And I was like, oh, the only thing I really want to do is travel the world. And I was thinking a lot about it and I was like, okay, how can I do this? How can I be independent, travel the world, go wherever I want to go without ever having to ask my parents for a cent? And so I decided to do modeling as a full-time job. And it went really well. But getting into it and finishing high school, not even thinking about like diet or nutrition, it wasn't even in my mind at all. And then wanting to get into it for full time, my agencies were like, "Okay, Bella, maybe you should lose some weight in order to really fit into that perfect size." And so I did that. I got really obsessed with losing weight, unfortunately. I got really thin, which resulted in like really mental and physical issues that I had. So I got really bad migraines, chronic migraines. I was suffering from chronic and stress-induced anxiety. And I started to realize that like a really bad relationship to food was so not sustainable. And I decided while I was in Australia, I'm going to use the time between castings and traveling so much during jobs to get certified as a nutritionist at IIN, the Institute of Integrative Nutrition in New York. And I did that, and that really helped me to become aware of like primary foods and secondary foods, and primary foods being like our relationships and career and physical activity and spirituality. And not only about and secondary foods, actually the foods that you take into your body. And so I thought a lot about like my surrounding and environment and how it affected me in so many ways. And I went to India to do my yoga teacher training because yoga was always like my feel good medicine, something that I did in the mornings. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I knew that it was helping me a lot to just like get grounded and reduce my anxieties at that point. And so I wanted to learn more. And in India, really, I made the decision to stop modeling because I felt there and I realized there that this like path that I was on, which I thought was like giving me so much because I was able to see the world, which I always dreamed of, it also really affected me in a negative way. And I kind of always suppressed that. But I realized that the person that I actually was, like the super joyful, energetic person that I used to be, that loved food, like I'm a proper foodie, that loved food was suddenly gone. And I was just like living in this bubble of like wanting to like only focus on my aesthetics and the way I looked and not anymore about like how I felt. And that came really from like the industry, obviously, where the focus is purely on your looks and no one really cares about your heart and who you are and what your issues are or what your fears are. And so in India, I really like gained back this awareness of myself and this consciousness about my body and who I wanted to be. And so I got a lot like introduced to the Ayurvedic medicine over there and how people over there were like coping with daily stressors. And when I got back to LA, where I was living at that point, a friend of mine introduced me to CBD to get to cope with my migraines, because at that point I was really dependent on pharmaceutical drugs and I wouldn't leave my house without them because they would kick in. Like I had at the worst point in my life, I had 4 days a week I had migraines. And
Oh, wow.
so I,
Yeah.
yeah, I was so afraid of leaving the house because I knew it could happen any moment. And I needed them at that point because otherwise I would just need like a dark room, bed, close my eyes, sleep as quick as possible. So being introduced to CBD, I was first very like criticizing it or stigmatizing it more. I was like, I don't want to deal with any drugs. And I was very like, I took a step back from it. But at some point I felt like, okay, why don't I just look into it? Because I have nothing to lose. So I did my research. I really looked into CBD, and how it has all these benefits that it has for people in general. And so started treating myself with it. I got my migraines under control, which was incredible. I was able to raise my appetite again. So I started eating more, which was really useful because I was really, really tiny. And then I went back to Germany and I started with two other founders. I started a medicinal cannabis company. And this kind of made me do direct to consumer brands because I wanted to start my first company called Noyo, which was a direct to consumer brand, CBD oils, because I wanted people that wouldn't get a prescription from the doctor to also have access to it. And that really was like my first brand. And I left the other founders with the medicinal cannabis company because I wanted to really focus on like the broader world of functional medicine and adaptogenic herbs and looking into all of that. And yeah, founding that brand first, like raising my first round for Noyo. I was introduced to one of our main shareholders from the Healing Company. And we saw obviously this like really big opportunity in this space nowadays. It's one of still like nutraceuticals is one of the fastest growing shelf spaces in the US. But there's such a lack of regulations and people really don't know who to trust. There's some like a lack of credibility and really like not a lot of education around all of it. So that's how the Healing Company came to life. Helping founders like myself, who were really passionate about their product or practice, but had the limited resources to really compete in this fragmented and confusing market.
Fantastic. Well, what a story, and how wonderful that you were able to make that change when you were so young. You know, compared to me, you're very young, you see, and I think everybody under a certain age is a baby, really. But no, how wonderful that you were able to do it when you were so young, and how fantastic that you discovered CBD. I'm a great advocate of CBD, and you know, it's been demonized so much. It's an uphill battle, really, to get people to come on board with it, isn't it? So, you know, fantastic that you discovered that and it really helped you. And then you've been sort of helping other people get that benefit. And also, yeah, you're right. The adaptogenic herbs, the CBD, nutraceuticals, a lot of people find it very, very difficult to know what to go for or where to go for proper information. There's tons of information on the internet, but what can you believe?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So for you to set up a business which is helping people and, you know, creating that credibility, that credible brand, I think that's really fantastic. So within the Healing Company, let's just explain what the Healing Company is. It's like an umbrella brand for a number of different companies, isn't it?
Yeah. So basically, our goal is it really to build a community of powerful healing brands. So we're like an umbrella company. And our aim is to acquire these brands, and to help them with our expertise in distribution, e-commerce, storytelling, and combine that with their expertise in their powerful healing brands, products and practices, and combine that to really raise their impact in this fragmented market.
Yeah. You see, I think that's a great way of, or a great example of the new way of doing business. It's not, you know, we're so competitive, we're going to trample over everybody else. It's saying, let's come together and pool
Exactly.
resources and
Yeah.
let's help each other move forward. I think that's a brilliant example of how all of us need to be doing business these days. It's the
Yeah.
new way, if you like.
Yeah, exactly. That's really what we said at the beginning. We said the power of working all together and having all these brands together is so much more powerful than each brand working individually. Because if we want to see a change in the world, and if we want to see the shift from treatment more to prevention and really giving people access and education in this space, then we have to work together, because that's just how we raise our impact on the people.
And of course, it's another example of the power of community, of connection, of coming together for the greater good. I absolutely love it. Well, we'll hear more from Anabel Oelmann right after these messages from our station sponsors. Back right after this.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
And you're listening to Alchemy 101 here on UK Health Radio with me, JJ, the Practical Alchemist, and my guest today, Anabel Oelmann. And we were talking before the break about coming together in her umbrella business, The Healing Company. You're up against a huge lobby in the pharmaceutical companies. So, really these small companies who are selling adaptogenic herbs or who's selling CBD, they've got a long way to go before they can actually compete in that market. So well done on that. And I want to just talk a little bit more about CBD, because you obviously found it so beneficial for your migraines. I never had migraines until I started going through menopause, and then it was caused by not being able to process alcohol anymore. So anytime I had a glass of wine, I had the most appalling migraine. So I just stopped drinking. Wow. That was fine. That sorted it. But if you're younger, if you're your age when you were having these migraines and you were having 4 days a week with migraine issues, that's a huge impact on your life. And was it just the CBD that helped you with that?
No, I would say obviously it was a combination of things. Like I shared prior, like the primary foods of your surrounding environment, your relationships, your career, your spirituality, all of this really, like bringing back my focus to this was really important. And so working, like doing my yoga in the mornings, doing my breath work, meditation, combining that with CBD and really being more aware of what I was putting into my body. All of this together made a big change. Yes. But obviously because of the modeling and because getting such a bad relationship to food, I was also really lacking nutrients. And our body needs 40 micronutrients to function properly. And if you don't get them, you will have deficiencies in your body. And these deficiencies over time can increase your risk to chronic diseases. And so having these like deficiencies of nutrients in my body, having all these stressors and really not focusing on my primary foods as well, caused the disruption in my body and caused my body to act in the way it did, having migraines, anxiety, and all of that. So I really had to change a lot in my life. But CBD was a really, really great helper.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you said that, because a lot of people take something like CBD and they think it's going to be the silver bullet. They think, oh, I'm taking CBD now, so I'm going to be fine. That's going to work. And then they get really disillusioned when they realize that it doesn't just work like that necessarily, and that you have to look at every aspect of your life, which you obviously did, to your credit, which, did help you get through it. And, for a lot of people, they'll take CBD, but then, you look at what else they're doing in their life, and maybe they're eating really badly. Maybe they're eating junk food. constantly, ultra processed food constantly, not getting the nutrients that they need, just as you were saying there. And so, you kind of want to say, it's not, it's a job. It's a job. It'll pay dividends, but it's a job to get yourself sorted out in every area.
Exactly. It's a lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
It's something that you have to really consciously choose and act upon. It's not something that is like you can fix in 24 hours. And I know a lot of people think, and that's, I think, an issue with adaptogenic herbs and supplements and nutraceuticals nowadays, is that people, they want like this quick solution, which Western medicine gives us, right? Like if I have my headache, I take ibuprofen in 20, 30 minutes, I will feel better. But this doesn't treat the underlying cause for your symptoms, and always suppressing symptoms is not the solution and will cause to chronic disease in the future. And so we have to start really becoming more patient, taking a step back and really using preventative medicine, functional medicine, and the holistic approach to really look into and identify and address the underlying causes of why people feel, or we feel the way we do. And there's always a reason. And it can even be something that you're not even aware of. And so sometimes it's so important to really stop and really look deep into how you're feeling. And I think in today's world, everything is so quickly, like we want quick solutions, and we a lot of times forget to really tap into ourselves and ask the question, like, how am I really feeling? And I think you can get more answers than you would expect. Well,
I know that you can. And yes, we all want I don't. Fast food, fast pain relief, fast everything. We expect to order something online and it arrives the next day, that kind of idea, but it doesn't work like that. And if you've been abusing your body, and I will use that word, if you have been feeding your body rubbish in every sense, not just in the physical food that you're actually ingesting, then it takes a little while to come back into balance, to redress the balance. CBD can help very much with that, but you need to look at everything else. And the adaptogenic herbs, they've become very much, I hear a lot about them right now, and they are great. And they've been around forever. You would learn about them, I'm sure, in Ayurvedic medicine, training, that sort of thing. They've become a real kind of, trendy go-to nutraceutical, but they do work, is the thing. A lot of them really do work for anxiety, for issues that women might have during period pains and that sort of thing. What's your feeling about about adaptogenic herbs right now?
Well, like you said, I think it's like a word that not a lot of people were familiar with a couple of years ago, and it has really evolved. But they have been used for centuries in traditional medicine systems like Ayurveda and the traditional Chinese medicine. And so they've just emerged into the Western world, or have become more popular. But I really, really do believe in them, because they're substances that help the body adapt and respond to stressors. And that can be whether they're physical, mental, or environmental in nature. And I have used a lot of adaptogens in my life. And so they really can enhance the body's resistance to stress, and can also improve our overall well-being and promote balance. So when it comes to getting back into homeostasis, being able to respond better to stressors in today's world, they are really powerful. And I think there is still this lack of education around them, because in all this traditional medicine, obviously it has been passed on from generation to generation, and they teach their kids a lot about them. But here, when it just emerged newly and people are not haven't used them before, or haven't been really aware of them, obviously they're not 100% they don't believe 100% in the effect that it has because they haven't seen it. Whereas in these like generational past knowledge, you can obviously see the effect it has had. And so I think education is really key to build that around it. Because especially with like today's mental health issues as well, it can also really help to enhance our like mental focus and clarity. It can support our immune system. And yeah, so I think there's still a lot we can learn about it. And that we have to share with the world so that people become even more likely to choose that rather than stepping right into taking conventional medicine.
Yes, I agree with you. I sometimes think of adaptogenics as a bit like a warm hug that supports you. You know, it's like that beautiful kind of loving support that you'll get from whatever it is you're taking. And I take adaptogenics as well. And not all the time. Sometimes I kind of drift away, but I'll come back. Depends on what my body feels it wants. I always listen to my body.
Exactly.
And the same with CBD. What people forget is that in the old days, maybe in the beginning of the last century, before cannabis and CBD became demonized, we would very often get that into our systems just by through the diet that we were eating, because animals were grazed on hemp, and it would come through the food chain naturally, and then suddenly it disappeared out of the food chain and we became deficient. So we have to remember that these things, it's all old stuff that we're rediscovering.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
We're rediscovering it. And like we said before, it's also nothing that just happens overnight. So you have to really be persistent with it and take it over a longer period of time to really feel the effects it has.
Mm-hmm.
But they're powerful, and they're true and real. So I would always recommend people to try before going to conventional medicine.
Yes. And so let's just talk a little bit about what adaptogenics are, or what would be considered an adaptogenic herb or supplement. So, for instance, you have things like ashwagandha, but there are also medicinal mushrooms, which are adaptogens. So, can you talk us through a few of those?
Yeah, sure. So like you said, ashwagandha is one very popular one right now. But then also like the traditional Chinese mushrooms, reishi and cordyceps, which are very popular currently as well. And they're called adaptogenic herbs because they act on the responses of the body to stressors, and they promote overall well-being. So it's like a classification where you say they act on the body's response to stress, basically. That's what an adaptogenic herb is.
Yeah. Yes. And a lot of people are talking about ashwagandha right now because stress is a huge thing in our lives right now. We're being stressed beyond belief, compounded by the diets that many people are eating. So you're stressed because of everything that's going on in the world, and then you're not eating properly, and you're probably not sleeping properly. And, there's this spiral that happens. So you've got the Healing Company now, which is bringing together all these wonderful people who are creating these supplements for those of us who need them. And is there on your website, is there somewhere where you explain what everything is, and do you direct people to the different companies? How are you getting the word out there?
Yeah, so we don't have that yet. We might get that in the future or create that in the future. But right now, our education channel is really my own podcast that I do, the Healing Hour. So with the Healing Hour, my aim is to bring leading voices and healers and experts from the integrated healing world onto the podcast to share their personal healing journey and then share about their products and practices that they have started, and really dig deep into, okay, what are the benefits of it? For example, we just posted my Healing Hour podcast with Campbell Will, who does breath body therapy, and it's all about how breath work can affect our overall well-being, and how we react to stressors and how we react to the world, and how we can actually bring our body back into homeostasis. And so we go really deep into how breath work works. And so I interview all these different people with a specific focus on a specific topic, or product or practice that, in order to share this educational side of it.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I know from my own healing experience, which I've written about, and it's been a lifelong battle for me to find a way of really bringing my gut flora, my gut back into proper health. I realized that it was probably completely messed up at birth. And then through childhood, having to take antibiotics, and then you kind of get okay, but then you get to a certain age where, your body's not quite getting back into balance as easily as it used to. And, but I found a fabulous probiotic, biotic supplement that is working a dream. I have never felt better. My gut has never felt better. And I can eat whatever I want, and it's dealing with it. Well, I say whatever I want. I mean, good stuff. I try to eat the good stuff most of the time. I think we all fall off the wagon and have something that's a bit rubbish sometimes, but mostly I like to eat properly.
Yeah. But that's fine.
Yeah.
We need that.
We do. Yeah. I think it is fine. Absolutely. I remember I'd gone to a local baker's the other day and a friend met me in the street and said, "I hope that's healthy." I said, "No, it's not." She just looked at me completely aghast. But now and again, you see, now and again. But I think that that's great. So you're sharing all these stories, which is kind of what I like to do here as well. I like to have people on who can talk about their stories, who can talk about what works and what can work for you. And hopefully our listeners can go away learning something and feeling a bit more reassured, certainly about, in this case, using maybe CBD, or maybe we have talked about CBD a lot on this show, also adaptogenic herbs and medicinal mushrooms that everybody probably who listens to this show regularly knows that I'm a big fan. And cordyceps is brilliant. I've loved that for many years now, especially if you're feeling a bit tired or just a bit low. Fantastic. So, yeah. So thank you so much thank you for all the work that you're doing, really. And thank you for giving these companies, these businesses, a boost yourself. And that's also part of our communal health, our health as a planet. And that is helping people who are helping other people be healthy. It's all intertwined. It's all connected. And it really is, I do believe, the way forward in business. So, it's fantastic that you're doing that. And I'm sure it will go from strength to strength. And so if somebody wants to listen to your podcast or watch your podcast, where do they find that?
Yeah, so it's the Healing Hour, and it's on the Healing Company YouTube channel, as well as we cut out little powerful snippets into our social channels. So onto Instagram, where we're called @theheal_co. And we also posted on our LinkedIn, the Healing Company. And so, we share it everywhere on all our channels.
Brilliant. That's what we have to do as well. Just do a Google search for the Healing Company and you'll find everything, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, brilliant. Well, look, I think it's great. I think it's fantastic what you're doing. And who would have thought when you were young and into modeling, it is quite a toxic environment in some ways, isn't it? When they expect you to be so thin. It's not good for anybody. And so great that you came to realize that and got out of that. And you probably had a lot of fun modeling, but you're probably having lots of fun.
Really,
now
like when even if I look back to it, I'd say I wouldn't even change that time at all. Like I wouldn't change anything, because the people I met and the experiences I made were just so valuable that, yes, of course, there was a bad side to it. And I had a lot of like mental and physical issues and I didn't feel great towards the end. But overall, I got to see the world. I got to meet lovely people, make incredible experiences, learn so much about myself as well. So I wouldn't want to change anything about that time.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much. Yeah. And everything that we go through in life is a learning experience. And so we should be grateful for it. Yeah.
And I wouldn't be here today if that wouldn't have happened. So
exactly. So yeah. So absolutely perfect. It's all perfect. Anabel, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm delighted to know that there are people like you in the world doing the work that you're doing.
Thank you, JJ. I really appreciate it. And thank you for having me on your show.
The lovely Anabel Oelmann there doing great stuff, and how lovely that she has managed to get out of that toxic environment and into a far more healthy environment in every way. Well, it's time for a short break right now, but we'll be back right after this with some more about herbs, but this time not quite an adaptogenic herb. We'll be talking about borage and why that's brilliant for your garden. Back right after this from our station sponsors.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
And you're listening to Alchemy 101 here on UK Health Radio, the world's biggest talk health radio station. I'm JJ, the Practical Alchemist, and it's time to step outside and just be amongst the borage.
Well, I'm sitting here in the middle of our patch where we grow all sorts of food and herbs. I've got some lavender behind me, which is in flower. I'll talk about lavender another time. But I'm sitting in front of a whole bed of borage, which is a gorgeous blue flower and a wonderful herb, actually. Now, these days, if you drink a cocktail like Pimm's, you might know it because the blue flowers are often put in the cocktail to make it look pretty. And also sometimes the stalks, because the stalks, once you've just peeled them, because they're a bit prickly, they taste a little bit like cucumbers. So they're great in a drink like Pimm's or any kind of fresh cocktail like that. Not that I would drink that these days because I don't drink alcohol, but it is good for you if you do find it in one of your cocktails. Now, really though, borage is brilliant as a medicinal herb. It does a lot of different things. It's a sedative and it's a diuretic, and apparently it's used as a treatment for seizures and kidney disease. And you can either make a tea out of the dried leaves, or you can eat it fresh. And also the seeds are used to make borage seed oil, which is a really a prized crop. And in fact, you know, a lot of the farmers these days are using borage as a break crop, which means that they're planting borage in between bigger crops. I assume to make sure that the ground is fertilized, because I suspect, I might be wrong, but I suspect that that borage is quite high in nitrogen. And the reason why farmers grow borage as a break crop is because it doesn't take long from germination to cutting it, and you can sow it quite late. And then on top of that, it's deep rooting and it doesn't leave very much stuff on the surface. So it's great for creating a friable soil. So it's perfect for creating a good soil for instance, drilled winter wheat or something like that. But also on top of that, for farmers, it commands a great price at auction. So it's a really good way of making use of your farmland, especially if you're an organic farmer or you're farming according to nature. So if you're growing borage in your garden, you can use the leaves, the stems. I'm not sure you'd be able to get the seed oil out of the seeds if you don't have a commercial enterprise, but it's really good for composting and mulching, and it's got loads of different trace minerals in it, which mean that, it's really, really healthy for your garden. And in fact, as we found here, it is so good at self-seeding, and it absolutely thrives in full sun. This is a south-facing piece of land, and it does brilliantly here. So, and because it's so good at self-seeding, plant a couple of plants one year and you'll get a whole host of them the following year. So you're probably never going to have to reseed it, which again is brilliant. And that's again what we've found here. We've got a whole bed now of borage, which is just fantastic. Cut it back though, after it's seeded. I mean, that's if you want it to seed. If you've got a very small garden, make sure that you don't let it seed, because it will self-seed prolifically. So just as soon as the flowers have faded, cut it back and then chuck it on the compost, and it'll really help invigorate your garden. Now, it's also brilliant for bees. So if you plant borage for no other reason, plant it for bees. I can hear some bees, some honeybees these are, in the flowers right now. You might be able to hear them in the background. But it's absolutely fantastic because it has such a long flowering period, and it very often fills a gap when bees don't have much else going for them. So they can get the nectar from borage for a long, long period of time. I'm just watching these honeybees. They're doing really well, filling their little sacs of pollen and drinking the nectar. Absolutely gorgeous. And beekeepers talk about this as being a nectar gap. It's a point where not much is out and we're waiting for the summer flowers to come on. So they're fantastic for that. So really, really helpful for bees. And I've been sitting here watching these plants just now, and I've seen 3 different types of bumblebee. I've seen honeybees, and I've seen hoverflies, or 4 different types of bumblebee. There's another one just there. And I've seen lots of other insects as well. So if you're looking for a good plant to attract and help, to attract insects and to help the bees, borage should be really near the top of your list. And also, those parasitic wasps and other insects that predate on all those unwanted insects on your brassicas and everything. Borage will attract them, and so therefore they will help keep those nasty pests down off the rest of your crops, particularly in your garden. So have a think about planting some borage. It'll help you maintain your garden, keep your crops growing beautifully, healthily and naturally, and it will also help the soil. I don't know how much truth there is in this, but it's said to repel larvae that might damage cabbages and tomatoes particularly. And then some other source says it might even attract black fly away from your beans. So, and I have to say that our beans are looking very, very nice indeed, and there doesn't appear to be any black fly on them right now, but yeah, let's not tempt fate. There's plenty of time. But I would have thought that by now they would have been on there. So borage, it's a great plant. It's great for us. The flavour of the stalks and leaves is slightly cucumbery, very nice. It's great as a garnish for drinks. It's great in salads. Put the flowers in salads. You might have seen in posh farm shops and places like that, salad bags with these lovely bright blue star-like flowers in them. That's borage. And it's also a magnet for pollinators, such as bees and butterflies and hoverflies. So really a go-to plant in my book. Happy boraging.
happy boraging. I really just couldn't help myself there, could I? Oh dear. Well, once again, if you head over onto my website, thepracticalalchemist.uk, you'll find out more information on beautiful borage and its benefits, as well as a picture or two of our plants, which have all but stopped flowering by now, I reckon. I can't wait to see the sea of blue they bring to the veg patch next year. And with that, we've come to the end of the show. I hope you've enjoyed it and found it useful. Remember, you can listen to all of our shows on all the main podcast platforms these days. And if you like what you hear, or if they've helped you, do help us spread the word by sharing them. You never know, it might just be what someone you know needs to hear. Also, if you haven't already, do check out the show I co-host with psychiatrist and coach Dr. Mark Goulston here on UK Health Radio. It's called Hurt Less, Live More, and Mark and I share experience, anecdotes and wisdom with some great guests who've had the courage to feel into their feelings and heal. For even more health information, there's our sister publication, Health Triangle magazine, and that's a monthly magazine that's full of great features complementing our radio shows. You can subscribe online at ukhealthradio.com. Thank you for listening today. Do head over to my website. Again, it's thepracticalalchemist.uk to find out more about me and how to stay in touch. You can sign up for news from me by email, but you can also find me as Practical Alchemist on Instagram, and I have a Facebook page too. Just search for The Practical Alchemist there. And of course, remember to join me for more alchemy here on UK Health Radio and the UK Health Radio podcast next time. Until then, it's goodbye from me and that nightingale.